Welcome to the United We Scan podcast, the podcast by rural carriers for rural carriers. The views expressed in this podcast are of the presenters and the presenters only and do not represent the views, opinions, or strategies of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. We ask that you please consult your assigned union representative for guidance in your local area. Please like this podcast, share with your fellow rural carriers, and subscribe to be notified each time a new episode is uploaded. Please leave a comment or question for us below. Thank you. Now, here are the hosts of the United We Scan podcast.
Ain't that the fucking truth?
And welcome back, everybody.
Oh, y'all missed a good pre-show.
I might just leave that one in there tonight.
I think you should.
I think I will. Okay, episode 102. Here we are. Carriers, CPWU, and privatization is privatization. Okay, I can't talk tonight. It's going to be a fun night. How was your week, James?
I got into overtime on day 4 and was overtime on Friday the whole day. Management was surprised I didn't want to get assistance from relief carriers because they were doing static routes and things like that and telling them that they don't have to switch over to the routes when they're delivering the packages. So I'm like, oh no, I need all that money to my route for my evaluation, so I'll take everything I can. They still sent assistance out to me on the route for 2 times this week, but really it didn't do much to change what time I got back to the office, and I only missed the truck once this week. But we'll get into some discussions I've had this week, which is part of the carrier section of this. But I've enjoyed taking the time at the end of the day when I've gotten done doing my route, helping carriers like I normally do. And of course, gearing up for Christmas time, and the last couple weeks before Christmas always seem to pile on more packages because of people ordering and delivery times getting close to Christmas. So I'm hoping that it's a good week, but you never know. You know, box holders and stuff like that come in all the time. So other than that, how was your week, Bill, with your not to-do list?
I got nothing done on my not to-do list, so I feel like I'm 100%. It's to the point where we actually didn't get our grandson Friday night. So we made an appointment with one of my customers who has one of these 3.5-story tall stone barns, and they converted it into an event center and rented it out for weddings and everything. And I haven't seen it in 15 years, so we went over to a customer's of mine and met Teresa Gallagher and her husband Rich. And he goes, "Hi, I'm Rich." And I says, "I know that." I said, "What, do you get stupid or something?" He goes, "Well, I didn't recognize you because of the hair." But they did a beautiful job on this barn and all that. And it was just, my wife just goes, I can't believe your customers love you that much. I'm like, yeah, I know. They love me more than my wife. And she goes, well, that's because they see you more than your wife, which is a good thing. Other than that, I mean, it's been a very frustrating week answering people's questions where, management can't enter overtime. People, talking about this, the 600 minutes and everything. So I'm just like over this so bad. Now somehow the 600 minutes got translated into 200 miles, which is 200 miles times 3 minutes in regards to overtime. And I'm just, for God's sakes, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know yourself, start educating yourself about overtime procedures, especially during Christmas, and help the people in your office too, because God, I don't know what's wrong with people that they're not paying attention to the contract, the M38, 603, the Elm, because this is your damn job. And if you don't protect yourself, who the hell's going to? And contrary to what I've read before, where people say, well, why do we have a union? The union can't protect you unless you stand up for yourself. And you can't stand up for yourself if you don't know the rules. So how are you going to file a grievance if you don't know a grievance was committed? How are you going to get your pay if you don't know you were shorted? Case in point, carrier in my office is getting a letter of demand for $300 from 2022. Now, of course, we had the fire in August of 2024 at Westchester. So they want him to prove that he didn't get overpaid. And he put in a request for the original documents, the 4240 and the entries on rims for his pay. But they can't provide them because of the fire. But they still want him to pay the money back. You can't make this shit up. You really can't. Of course, he's fighting it, and it'll get down to the wire. But, ladies and gentlemen, please start educating yourself and your fellow carriers in your office and watch out for each other, okay? How about you, Kristen? How was your week?
My week wasn't too bad. It was actually fairly light this week in my office. Well, at least for the main zip code. I'm not going to talk about the other two because that poor POV route, which never get the volume that it's gotten in the last year and a half. And wow, he's been having more parcels than I have on my 46K. And the
Well,
only day this week I was over evaluation was Monday, and I was only over by 0.08. Everything else was under evaluation and no assistance at all this week. And I did use up my X day on Thursday because I thought I was going to go to my daughter's Christmas concert. And well, that got delayed because they've had snow days Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I enjoyed my day off at home Thursday. And then I'm contemplating if I want to burn my last annual leave day for Wednesday to go to the makeup day for the Christmas concert. So yeah, that was pretty much my week. Nothing too exciting otherwise.
what about the grandbaby?
Yeah, he's gonna be 4 months old Friday. Oh, and this past Friday, Friday the 13th, was my 10th anniversary with the post office.
Our condolences. I mean,
I
congratulations.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I've never worked for a more abusive employer. I must be a glutton for punishment. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to explain to people that you're sane while putting yourself through this.
oh, I know. It really is sometimes.
Good
Hey.
segue,
But
Bill. Good segue. I just posted about a picture of an LLV of an RCA who was out delivering in the dark, got hit by an SUV, causing the postal truck to roll over. The RCA had to be extricated and life flighted to the hospital where that RCA is still in a coma. I'm still getting details on this, but management's response to this was to send out a safety stand up talk of wearing your seatbelt and not using your cell phone while working. This RCA was out in the dark driving this LLV, and I didn't see in the picture that it had a strobe light on the top. Now, it could have fallen off or not, but you literally only have 6 lights around this truck when you have the flashers on to warn people that you're there. And the driving lights, oh yeah, you got headlights, you got marker lights, but they're incandescent garbage most of the time. Some of them are LED, but there's very few lights on this vehicle as it is. There aren't even clearance lights on them like UPS, FedEx, and Amazon have. I really do like the rear light of the Rivian that Amazon is using that wraps all the way around the back of the truck. It makes it a lot more visible than the back end of a postal truck or even the front end of a postal truck. Something has to be done for the safety of these carriers. This isn't the only story I've heard about, but this is the first one we're going to talk about. This RCA was out there in the middle of the night, and some of these carriers in this office are out there past 10 o'clock at night. And the postmaster tried to curtail packages because they had gotten over 12,000 packages in their office. And so the manager was trying to curtail packages so carriers could get out of the office and get back at a reasonable hour. And that postmaster got a PDI from the district manager.
You know,
Go ahead,
as
Dan.
that postmaster, I'd have taken that PDI for my carriers. But then we're not normal people, okay? We would cover for our employees. Most of them won't.
Yep.
Yeah, we had a news report here in New Jersey. The 74-year-old crossing guard was hit and killed. Now, the worst part was he's going across the intersection. He's got the big yellow vest on. He's got the red stop sign in his hand. As he's escorting these two students across the traffic, the first car goes by and almost hits them. As he pushes the two students away, a second car comes along and plows right into him. Broad daylight. Okay. Now here we're talking about, a carrier being out in the dark. If people aren't paying attention in broad daylight, you imagine they're paying even less attention in the dark. And our prayers go out to this carrier, because you shouldn't have to put your life on the line unless you're picking up a weapon in the military. But God, carriers do every damn day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day. And this just pisses me off to no end.
It brings home the point that this is a very dangerous job. And a lot of people don't recognize that. They think all we do is just sit on our behinds and stick our arms out the window into a mailbox. There's so much more that goes into it. And especially on today's roads. Even in your normal personal vehicle, when you're just driving normally, crazy things happen out there. We just had ice come through our area and several other states in the Midwest, and it's now up into Pennsylvania as well. You're talking about a job where you are out in the elements, and you are at risk not only from the elements, but from every other road user around you. We've had carriers that were rear-ended by semi-trucks. Carriers during the morning 6 to 9 play, they were rear-ended because they weren't expecting a vehicle to be sitting halfway out in the roadway delivering to a mailbox at 6:30 in the morning. They don't, and out there at night, carriers working 15, 16, 19 hours in a single shift. When is somebody going to step up and protect these carriers? When is somebody going to say enough is enough? It's time for us to actually put our foot down, get with management to get away to put people in these jobs, pay them decently, and protect the most valuable asset of this company, which is the very people that deliver the goods and services that you depend on to make your money.
And in my former office, they are getting hit so bad right now with parcels. Everybody's comparing it to COVID, but worse. My ex-route had 4 hampers yesterday. 4 hampers. Now, I haven't even ever seen 4 hampers. 3 hampers and a stack, a couple of stacks, but not 4 hampers. This shit's out of control this year. It really is. And y'all, you're the most important delivery day. Fuck that toilet paper or that, air fryer or whatever else you have to deliver. If you hit the 12-hour mark, get your, 11.5-hour mark as an RCA, get your ass back to the office.
Mm-hmm.
If you're regular, just cite safety.
Mm-hmm. And I will say this, I know carriers that are fighting for this right now. And while it's going through the grievance process, management is still telling them, well, until it's settled, you still have to go do this. Grieve it again if you have to, but keep doing it. You have managers out there that are telling their district manager that their carrier can't do it anymore, and the district manager is telling them either you do it or I'll fire you and the carrier.
Yep.
Enough's enough. When is our district reps going to step up to these management jerks? And when is our national office going to do something about it? They put these articles in the magazine saying if you're out there past 8, contact your district rep. The district rep should be contacting national. National should be putting a boot to the butt of management and getting them to stop forcing carriers to be out so frickin' late.
And that's I think that's the biggest crux of this problem, is that you can push it up the ladder, but when it hits the top of the ladder and nobody does anything, you've got a problem. You got a problem with representation, and you got a problem with these people realizing who the hell they work for. And that's you and me. And it's me too, because, even though I'm retired, I pay dues. So yes, you have to find a way to change the entire atmosphere, the National Board and the NSS, and go after postal management.
Kristen, your thoughts?
Oh, I think you guys have pretty much nailed the. Yeah, but you guys said pretty much all of it. I really don't have anything to add on what you guys have already said. So
Well,
Damn, we made a woman
unfortunately,
speechless.
I have one more, unfortunately. I was actually contacted by a city carrier who used to work in this office, and it's about over a month ago that this happened. But a rural carrier was getting harassed by management on the daily, and one day they took it too far with this carrier, and this carrier brought their route back after about halfway done with it, and parked the truck, went home, and they were never seen again. They took their own life because of managerial harassment.
yeah,
All of this has to stop.
it
All
does.
of it. But when I'm getting
And that,
calls even from city carriers, this is not right.
and that's happened with a clerk in our office too. It's not just our craft; it's across the board.
And it boils down to management. It's you know we- we've been dealing with ours off and on, off and on, off and on to the point where people are actually finally tired of dealing with it and are stepping up.
Hmm.
Finally, but yeah, it is. It's happening everywhere, and it's sad that it has to happen everywhere. There's no reason
But we,
for it. I mean, we have so many documents that state, about harassment and bullying and all that stuff, and a lot of it's geared towards employee to employee. But management still has to follow those guidelines too, more so now than ever.
well,
And you
we
need
just
to
had a
hold them
situation.
accountable to it.
We had a situation in our SD&C with a highway contractor. The highway contractor's son works with her in the office. They have 3 routes, and he was bringing over 3 hampers. And the district manager, who is a bit of a Hitler type individual, grabbed the 3rd hamper and told him it was unsafe. And he turned around and said, "Whatever, dude." So he goes on to the cases where the highway contract route is, and the son said, that guy's on a motherfucking power trip. And that's when the DM got up in his face. Now, allegedly, physical violence was spoken towards the DM, which ended up with the highway contractor carrier, being removed from the office with the threat of police being called to the office. This has been building up because of the animosity that is displayed towards my Westchester office at this SDNC. Now, you want to talk about mismanagement. They brought in, some of, older cases, but, they're adjustable cases to, give us so that we could put our routes up when the fire happened. This guy won't spend the money for this, that, or the other, but he's buying all new blue cases for all 88 Westchester office routes. You want to talk about why the post office is losing money? Because this guy wants the whole office to look uniform. This guy doesn't want you carrying 3 hampers. If you only have 2 people working 3 routes, and you can safely transport 3 hampers, what's the big fucking deal? But this guy's attitude, like you said, his Hitler persona that he exhibits on the floor. I mean, he was actually threatened by this highway contractor to the point where he was going to have to call the police. Well, if you didn't start it, if you didn't provoke the situation, it would have never probably escalated to that point. But the problem of it is that this is where we have people who should not be in management. If you want to be treated nicely, treat people nicely. All these joint statements on our workplace are for both sides of the fence, the employee and the employer, management as well as the crafts. And yet we're the ones that bear the brunt of it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that we need to hold management to the higher standard that they hold us to. They're not afraid to turn around and quote the ELM to us. And now we all know, everybody here on the presenter side knows that management doesn't just know that stuff off the top of their head. They all contact the labor side of management to get the breakdown of the questions they want to ask people in order to try and pin them with whatever violation they want to do. But it is our job and our responsibility to know this stuff and be able to hold management accountable ourselves.
There we go. Yeah, it's funny because the gentleman that I said that was, as of Friday, apprised of not coming back to the office, he's having a fit because his supervisor and his postmaster and the district manager, they're all getting this from the region. When this hits national in regards to his situation, it's going to be going like this. Are you people stupid? He has medical documentation that we already agreed to give him assistance on his route. And now you sent him home without pay in direct violation of his OWCP agreement that we signed? How stupid can you be? Answer that, because no matter how stupid you think management is, they'll prove you wrong and go further.
Yes, they will.
They have that ability.
Oh, yes. Yes, they do.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that we as carriers have to be so knowledgeable in our own jobs to be able to hold management accountable. And there you go, Bill. There's the grandbaby.
There we go.
And everybody watching this will be able to see the grandbaby.
Look how cute. Grandma, what the hell you doing putting me on this show? This is not PG-13.
It's all
That's a
day.
future
Mommy
rural
leaves and I
carrier.
get cranky. Mommy leaves and I get cranky. So Papa just passed me off to Grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Run. Don't become a rural carrier.
that's the future of the rural craft right there. Third generation.
Oh, God.
Management stupidity is an extreme sport. No, I've come to the conclusion and this is through the years of research that I've done, and Bill will probably most likely agree with my very next statement, that management failing to know the rules and regulations of the post office is no longer just a fluke. It's not a management made a mistake. It is purely malicious and intentional. They do it on purpose because they want to get away with it to see how far they can push you, see if they can turn you into a city carrier. Because Lord knows they don't like the rural contract. It's too complicated for them. It has too many details for them. Just pay them hourly and call it good. Make it so that they have the hour office time, the 5 minute end of shift duty, where they can micromanage us to death because we're working hour by hour. We can't let them do
And
that. We can't let them beat us up.
and to that point, James, you are correct that it's intentional. I've actually had supervisors and postmasters say, "I know it's against the contract, but this is what's being told to me from above," and they still go ahead and do it, even though they know they're going to lose the grievance from the get-go. They still do it because they're afraid of losing their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't convey that to the person above you that this is going to cost the post office money, there's something wrong with your skills. Yeah, there are these guys who are ego tripping pieces of dog dirt, and you're not going to argue with them. Like the one guy was saying, I want no excuses. If your supervisors screw up or anything, I'm holding you responsible. There is no forgiveness. You will be disciplined. How do you inspire the people below you with threats? The same way, how does management inspire the craft? With threats. I'm sorry. I'm one of those people, when you threaten me, I come back at you. And I'm always twice to three times dirtier than you are. It's just the way I'm made. And they broke the
You know,
mold.
all right, we're going to change gears here a little bit and talk about our brothers and sisters in Canada. Oh,
We,
somebody's not happy I'm changing gears. But our brothers and sisters in Canada are on over a month long strike, and there's been an update, and I have to put this out there. They are going Richard Nixon on them.
ooh,
The Canadian government is putting out there that they want the Canadian version of the labor board to force the postal workers back to work. Just like they
eh,
tried to do with the postal service in the 70s, and
mm-hmm.
just like they tried to do with the air traffic controllers. It worked better against the air traffic controllers because the National Guard actually worked air traffic control for their own the Air National Guard worked air traffic control for themselves, but the National Guard couldn't deliver the mail. Now the postal service in Canada is going to be tried to be forced back to work by the national government. That'll go over like a lead balloon.
Oh, yeah.
And the interesting thing about that is, it stems a lot to what just happened to the railroads in our country and how they forced them back to work. So here we go again, government interfering with the rights of the people. And I don't know about you guys, but that is something that should not be done because contract negotiations are the epitome of workers' rights and the best way for labor to be able to continue to work for these kinds of companies. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, my question is that is the Canadian Postal Service a government agency in entirety, or are they like us?
So, um, it's a crown corporation. So it's basically a separate entity because they did the Canada Post Crown Corporation Act of 1981, abolished the Post Office Department, and created the present day Crown Corporation that provides postal service. Um, Canada Post operates as a group of companies called the Canada Post Group and employs approximately 70,000 full and part time employees. The corporation holds an interest in Purolator Courier, Innova Post, Progistic Solutions, and Canada Post International Limited. Um, it's a is the hang on, just see. A crown corporation are organizations in Canada with a mixture of commercial and public policy objectives. They are directly and wholly owned by the Crown, i.e., the Government of Canada or a province. So it is a government agency underneath the Crown of Canada.
Okay. Yep, it does sound like USPS.
Mm-hmm. But we stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters up in Canada and their fight for living wages. They're only looking for, hang on,
23%.
they were looking for 23%, but I believe their last negotiation, if I'm not mistaken, let me just verify here really quick. I believe it said that they had just tried to go with 19%.
Well,
And
they're
even
still only 12 and a half miles past us.
the union leader um, said of the labor minister's announcement of the timeout, he said, "I feel like he's treating us like children." You know, but hopefully they come up with some kind of amicable solution to all this, because I just had a news article out of my area with the county sheriff's department and the costs associated with localities farming out their police services to the county. And one county got a raise of $1.5 billion in the cost, or $1 million, $1.5 million, excuse me. It went from $4 million to $5.5 million. And the cited reasons by the county for that was they're coming up on negotiations of the sheriff's officers' salaries, and they are expecting a 4 to 5% increase in wages a year in their next
Jesus.
collective bargaining agreement. So that 1.3% that they offered the city carriers is looking tiny now compared to everybody else that is negotiating in collective bargaining that we know of. But speaking of that, in collective bargaining, it's been going all over the news. Everywhere, every organization, news organization has been talking about the privatization of the Postal Service.
Yeah, they
It's
talked about
not.
it 30 years ago. They talked about it 13 years ago. They talked about it 8 years ago. There's
They've been
so many
talking
things in
about
the
it.
way.
They've been talking about it since the Great Postal Strike. Privatization of the Postal Service has been talked about since the Great Postal Strike, when our brothers and sisters of the city craft decided to step up, stand up, and hold management accountable and fight for the rights of every single postal employee in the country. They've been talking about privatizing the Postal Service. It's not going to happen because you need 2/3 of Congress in each set of the Congress, from the House to the Senate. 2/3 need to agree to it. And once they agree to it, they have to change all the laws associated with the Postal Service involving that. And then they have to convene a constitutional Congress of all the states. And 3/4 of the states have to pass the ratification of the Constitution. Otherwise, it doesn't work, and you can't privatize the Postal Service. And you know darn well one side or the other is not going to agree with the other person, because anything one side suggests is a problem to the other. So the fears of privatization will not be realized even in the next 4 years, unless you can get 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate to be one party.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Nope.
And like a lot of the chat forums have said, who wants to invest in a losing venture such as the post office?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at it right now. The Joy says, "Oh, we're building on the success building going into the Christmas season. Your success was a $10.1 billion loss for last year." James, that's not funny.
Hey, I saw it
But
on the house screen. I got to do it.
yeah, it's up in the chat too. Okay, but here we go again. If you're going to run a business, okay, you have to get people's cooperation to make it successful, to make it financially sound. How are you doing that when you're threatening your base employees all the time? How are you doing this with vehicles that are 40 plus years old out there, or a lack of vehicles? I've seen chats where people are being asked if they want to switch to POV routes on table two money. Are you kidding me? There's no way you can afford a brand new POV now. Everybody's buying all these used cars and converting them, but even still, you're putting the money out for the repairs. And most of you are out in rural routes where if you don't have four-wheel drive, that vehicle's not going to last. But it's okay, because you can turn around and not deliver certified letters that are $7, $8 each and have to refund that money. You can turn around and send out bundles of boxes for free, but you have to pay the clerk to put the label on there. You have to track them. The carrier has to load them and deliver them, and you're getting jack shit for them. But if Kristen walks in the post office to buy that same box, she's paying $7 for it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're moving, your mail is to be forwarded. Why? Well, hold it. Didn't we deliver it or make the attempt to deliver it to the address on the envelope? Yes, we did. Therefore, our service has been rendered to that address. If you want it forwarded, you're paying $20 a year to get it forwarded. If you want to put your mail on hold, it's $5 to put it on hold. We are a delivery service, not a storage center. We're not a warehousing office. We are a delivery unit. Generate the income where you can. How hard is this to do? And how about this? Hold a contract so that you're not paying out millions upon millions in grievances because your management team is uneducated, or your management team's stupid enough to listen to their bosses, and the grievances get filed, and then their bosses sit there and go, Oh, I didn't get a bonus because we had too many grievances. Who's the idiot that followed the damn district directives? Huh? Who's the lemmings that just follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road, and off the cliff you go rushing into the ocean because somebody told you to, and you were afraid to stand up and say no. Well, we're saying no. We've been saying no for years, and we're going to keep saying no. We're not taking this shit anymore.
I feel like I
Man,
should
done.
start playing that Twisted Sister song. But might get us
We're
in
not gonna take it.
might get us into copyright issues there,
Yeah,
though.
we can't get a copyright strike on this.
Yeah, no.
It's crazy to think that there are opportunities for a lot of improvement in this whole organization. And a lot of
God,
it just
yes.
comes down to people who don't want to listen to the people who probably know more than they do because they look down on them. They would rather ignore people who bring facts and truth to the forefront and live in their own happy little world thinking that they're untouchable. The time's coming where they won't be untouchable anymore. The time's coming where people are going to stand up and hold them accountable. And it is our job as carriers in this organization to hold the people accountable when they make these mistakes. Because 99% of them are intentional mistakes.
I had to say goodnight to the wife. Oh, tender little moment there. Oh,
So
Yeah, Ruby came and got picked up little man, and he left me with
yeah, no.
spit up on my shoulder.
Well,
that's what I
that's
had for
better than.
today.
And no, exorcisms don't work on me. Okay.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah. If anybody ever remembers back to the '70s with Flip Wilson saying the devil made me do it.
So we had a comment on our Spotify today. Not today, 3 days ago. So this week, and I haven't replied to it because I figured that'd be a good one to do on air. And this person says, "How do I get involved to make a change? Please reach out to me. I'm ready to fight."
Start with your
First, you
local
go.
meetings. Start with your local meetings. There's the delegate ballot in the national magazine. You can apply to be a national delegate and nominate yourself. And when the ballots come out, vote for yourself and engage other people in your craft in your state. Go to those meetings. Go to your state convention. Go to your boosters if you have them. Anything that can get you involved more with your union. And be sure that we're behind you on that. We're behind you learning more. But start by getting involved at the local level. If you need to know if you have a local meeting or something, you can contact your state secretary. You can contact your union rep. Your union rep should know if you have an area meeting coming up or something like that.
Right. And from my point of view, get to know your contract. Get to know Rex and understanding that. I mean, Rex is so important now to your paycheck that you would be ill served not to know the ins and outs of Rex. I mean, here we are on our fourth mini mail survey. We're basically, for me, 5 years into the implementation of Rex from my office, and people still have questions about second trips to the doors, unscannable parcels. These are all things you have to become familiar with. I have a gentleman that bid onto my vacant route. He'll be taking over January 11th. And he was like, well, how does Bill get such a big, evaluation? I'm at 67 hours on my route because I do everything every day. I don't skip a day. And I only put in information that is accurate and factual. I don't give them any leeway when it comes to the unscannable parcels. If I can't case it without manipulating the hell out of it, it's an unscannable parcel. You want to argue it, then guess what? Let's have a PDI or an INI, whatever. But I'm going to show you exactly how I work my mail. And if I can't stick it in my case without bending it over 4 times into Wednesday, it's an unscannable parcel, folks. Okay. Also, contract. Learn the contract. What they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do. The order of consideration, one of the most important documents in regards to having relief, or in your regards as an RCA, where you're placed. If you're scheduled for an office, you are considered unavailable for any other duty. Hello, black and white, no interpretation. Now, learn 10 minutes a day, read the 603, M38, the Elm, the Rex, whatever. But put the effort into protecting your paycheck. It's your paycheck, not mine, not James, not Kristen's. It's yours. So if you want to get paid for everything you do, know what you're supposed to be paid for. Kristen, jump in there.
Well, oh yeah, definitely getting more involved. I got involved from the get go. So just like the gentleman said, go to a local meeting. Start getting to know people at your local regional meetings, district meetings, however they're broken up in your area. Go to a state booster if you have them. Go to your state convention. That's the easy stuff right there. You know, Nominate yourself to get on the ballot to go to national. I was gonna read off. We had some pretty good ones in the listener chat. Become informed. That comes back. Getting to know your contract. I mean, I would even for an easier start maybe go with the RCAM because it's got some explanations there too. And reading the PO 603 and there's so many out there. I mean, a lot of it's get onto the national website and go to the steward reference guide. That's where you can search everything goes by alphabet. You choose a letter of something you want to look for. Don't look for hostile work environment by that. You're going to have to look under harassment, workplace climate and environment, and violence in the workplace. Trust me. It can
We all
be
know those sections.
confusing,
We all
but
know those sections.
yes, it can be confusing to navigate. But once you kind of get an idea how it works, you then will not have to spend as much time looking for certain things. That's definitely a huge resource to learning everything, including everything there is printed on Rex is on the website as well. And just
Cautionary there. It
yes.
says, follow the postal groups on Facebook. But just like everything we say and everything the union says and management says, you take it with a grain of salt and make sure it's factual. I mean, there are some very good Facebook groups out there, but we're human and we all make mistakes, and at least we'll admit it. But the fact of the matter is that you still have to do your research. That's a good place to start, but make sure
Hmm.
you research everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And
So let me finish going through the list real quick before I sidetrack again. Become informed, delegate for state and national, be willing to stand up for yourself. That is very important. And if nobody else in your office stands up for themselves and they see somebody starting to stand up for themselves, they will shortly follow after that. Run for office, whether it's, local, state office. Become a steward. I mean, you get a lot of resources there as well. I mean, you get help, you get resources, become a steward, stick it to management every chance you get. Oh, and the biggest one, remember to join the union if you're not a member. That's the only way you're gonna get onto the website to get all that information for sure. I mean, there are other avenues, but to get everything that you're looking for, possibly for that, definitely, you have to be a member and logged in.
Yeah, and if you're not able to access the union website as a non-dues paying person, there's rural info. Rural info posts a lot of stuff that is good information for you. Again, like Bill said,
Yep.
take it with a grain of salt. Do your own research. Make sure that it's an actual postal document. If they quote a postal document, guess what? It's available online because postal documents are public record. So
So
the
if somebody
PO
quotes
603.
something, yep, look it up and compare it. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have a framework to start your knowledge base.
Hmm.
And don't stop there. Pick up your 603 and read that. It's supposed to be changed, but it hasn't been changed. It's supposed to be amended, but until they agree upon it, it's the 603 still stands. Oh, we don't agree by that anymore. We haven't changed it yet. Nothing's been signed and dotted and everything else. I mean, go by the 603, the Elm, the M38. Get to know their handbooks as well as they do because they don't know shit.
Yep. That M38 is way outdated. It's like last
Oh God,
edition
yeah.
was 1980. But
Hmm.
there's definitely some good information in there that you could definitely use against management.
And
All the
you
Is
time.
definitely can use it against them. Definitely.
Yeah, don't be afraid to use their own manuals against them. They're breaking their own rules. Hold them accountable for it.
Just like they hold
Definitely.
the ELM against us.
Yep, we can hold it against them too.
Don't
And
don't,
you,
don't you love when you get a PDI and they quote the ELM for loyalty to the post office? And I had a girl in for a PDI one time and they brought up the loyalty and she just quietly said, "Look, motherfucker, I show up every day. I don't want to hear about loyalty. I see you motherfuckers more than I see my family." I fell off my chair. I had to stop the meeting there. I'm like, she's 100,000% right.
yeah,
But I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, I had to leave the office.
yeah.
And she, I grabbed her, pulled her out with me, and I said, "Please don't say anymore." Oh God! But it's so true.
It is.
You
It
spend more
is.
time with your work family than you do your actual family.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I got a message from a carrier today. I'm not going to read the whole message. I'll read it off air though for the funny parts. But they just needed a vent and didn't know who to bother on a Sunday, so they bothered me, which is fine. Not a bother. It's okay. Um, I actually was talking to my local steward when I read it, and he got a kick out of it too. So it says, I've been volunteering for Sundays to help the subs. We're down to 3 with 12 routes, one of which is being held down because the regular just retired. And they are fucking rock stars and deserve it. So kudos to them. But I've been coming in at 10 o'clock time, which is they're supposed to be their start time, and seeing them all loading and working off the clock sucks. I make points of it, but at the same time, how can you blame them from trying to get that work-life balance? It just sucks that the place we work for cares so little about that we bend to Amazon contractors' wills, that the hardest workers of them all choose to lose money for more time with their families because they can't clock in early, can't start early, so they're working off the clock so they can get done earlier, be able to go and spend the rest of the day with their family. I understand it. Is it right? Absolutely not. But it's sad that it has to come down to this. It really is.
And as regulars, you can empathize that they're working Sunday and you don't have to. But they're hurting themselves as much as anybody else
Yeah.
in doing this. And that's pissing me off about this 10 o'clock horse shit. You're still getting done in the dark, a lot of these carriers, on a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Who the hell's expecting the postal vehicles out there on Sunday?
Yeah.
You know, same way the Amazon guy almost got shot at my front door the other day. 9:24 p.m. hanging on the
Yeah.
door, and then dropped the stuff. Well, know me, I came to the door, and I had my right hand behind my back. And then I see the guy standing there taking the picture. He goes, "Have a good night." I said, "Well, be safe out there."
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to tell you, if it had been anything else except for the Amazon guy, it'd have been a different night for me.
Yeah. But yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, it's crazy that my Amazon showed up really early yesterday. I knew it was expecting, but I was not expecting it as early as it showed up at my door. Didn't even know that they had been here until I checked my email.
Well, my wife gets the alerts on her phone, and she got an alert that there's a package coming late. So of course I was ready for it. I'm still downstairs, and but when the banging on the door started, okay, Amazon usually doesn't bang on the door. They hardly even ring the doorbell. So like I said, I was prepared for any situation, but you know, God, I don't want to hurt anybody coming around that time of night. I mean, they're just trying to make the living like we are. Uh, you know, Nobody should be out that late. And I don't care what John Adams says about this 8 p.m. and contact your DR. I just saw in the message area about the DR saying, well, you can put cease and desist, but it's going to keep happening. Well, with that attitude, yes, it will keep happening.
Yeah.
If the DR has that attitude, who the hell, up the line is going to do anything about it?
That right there is just wrong. The DR is supposed to contact National when carriers are out past 8 p.m. That has been the rule since before 2021. Why are we still fighting over this? Why the hell hasn't National filed a step 4 on this? National is aware that people are out past 8. In fact, President Maston even touted that they're able to track who's working past 8 p.m. themselves. So where is our step 4 on this? Where is our national board on this? Where are the people that are supposed to protect these carriers from being out there this late? And what are they doing to get more butts in the seats to get this covered?
Well, how are you going to get butts in the seat when you can't get people in the damn door? You can't get them in the door because, A, they need to have POVs. B, they can make more money at Buc-ee's or Wawa.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to put up with the
1.3% is not going
toxic
to cut it.
atmosphere.
1.3 is not going to cut it.
No, Wawa is a regional, I'll say, stop and go type shop with gas stations. Like Buc-ee's or Speedway. I forget what the other ones are. But the fact of the matter is that they pay people $18 an hour. Okay, less money than they pay the post office. And yet they have a lot of young people in there, and you never see any of them disgruntled. They're very helpful. They're very polite. Now, they may go through a better hiring process. They don't have to use their own vehicles. They don't get switched store to store or anything like that. But the fact of the matter is, they're working for less money and they're happy. What does that tell you about the post office when you're paying a little bit more money and people aren't happy?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, $20 an hour and maintain a vehicle as an RCA.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in one of those offices that, is sufficiently staffed, you're not going to be working all but maybe a
Mm-hmm.
couple days a week. Now, that's a little bit less wear and tear on your vehicle, but still it doesn't help if something major goes down because more than likely that vehicle that you're using for a POV is probably going to be your daily driver. I've been there.
Yep.
And then you get the ones that are working 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day, and something happens to their vehicle and they're getting reprimanded because they don't have a vehicle right now because it's got to get fixed. Well, I'm working 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day. When's it supposed to get fixed? And that goes for regulars too with POV routes. That, there
Oh,
is no you can't get your
Chrissy,
relief day. You're going in on Sundays to help out because there's nobody else. And now you're getting in trouble because you got to take a day off and there's nobody to cover because you got to get your POV fixed.
I went through that, Kristen, about 15 years ago, and my van needed a transmission. It was, like 3 weeks to get it fixed for the parts and everything. And they were telling me, well, I had to supply my own vehicle. And in the meantime, there were two LLVs sitting in the parking lot not being used for carriers who hadn't been trained to drive LLVs yet. But they sat there for those 3+ weeks. In the meantime, they had a sub filling on my route and was giving him an LLV every day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know what you think you would do, but this asshole turned around and filed a grievance, and I got paid for 3 weeks of work because of what they did.
Yep.
And they were having a fit about that. Sorry, disparity of treatment. You require people to have POVs. Guess what? So does the sub.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hear about it. Well, he wasn't hired on a POV route. If you're hired in an office with POVs, you better have a POV available to you.
Yeah.
You're not hired just for a route.
Out of the 4 subs that we have now, the only one that has a POV is the new one that just finished up Academy last week, 2.5 weeks ago. He's not doing OJT until after the holidays, but he is running parcels. He's the only one that actually has a POV route worthy. Brand new hire.
Mm-hmm. And I will say
And they
this:
can't. Go ahead.
I've gotten notification from another carrier that an RCA quit, and the reason why they quit is their last year's paycheck was $11,000. They spent $12,000 repairing their POV last year, so they lost $1,000 working for the post office.
Yep.
Went in debt. Job.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Where does that make sense at?
Just the post office.
Nowhere.
Just the post office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think POVs, there are situations where POVs are good, but if we can get vehicles that are actually decent for rural carriers in rural areas, that would be great. Our LLVs, Kristen can attest that we've gotten through some stuff with these LLVs that they probably shouldn't have made it through.
Oh, I got stories.
Oh yeah, and, there are 4-wheel drive FFVs out there, but we definitely need a rural specific vehicle for delivery. The NGDV, you give me an NGDV on my route, I'll rip the bottom out of it in a week.
That
It's
would
too
be
low
the
to the
same
ground for
on
my
our
route.
POV route.
Yeah, and I've looked at some of the other options they have out there, and really the Canoe is probably the only vehicle that has the ground clearance to handle rural routes, but it doesn't have the capacity for a lot of these rural route packages that we get because Amazon's still not delivering in most of the rural areas. Amazon's dropping the dog food bags, the large groupings of toilet paper boxes and things like that, and paper towels on these rural routes. I've seen pictures of carriers who have their second and third trip is a completely full postal LLV. And it's crazy to think that we can't figure out a solution that works for rural when everybody at national office is focused on city delivery.
Yeah.
And what's wrong with getting these canoes out there?
Cost.
Us.
cost?
Are they a bus?
No, they're an electric vehicle, so you'd have to
No,
have the
no,
infrastructure.
not
What?
all of them. All of them.
Well, the ones that they're testing at the Postal Service are electric.
Right. Yes. But their first model was a internal
Hybrid.
combustion engine,
Yeah,
and
it was
they
a
had
hybrid.
4-wheel drive options on them.
That would be great. I mean, having a vehicle that is specific for just rural delivery would be a big benefit overall because rural carriers need assistance with their vehicles. It is not cost effective for carriers to support a POV of modern times. Sure, you
Mhm.
Nope.
can go out
Nope.
and buy a 20, 25-year-old vehicle, but you're still paying almost double price for parts these days for even those vehicles.
And it's if you can find them locally. Otherwise, you're stuck having to order them, and who knows how long that could take to get to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. I drove my best POV I ever had was a '93 Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra. That lasted me almost 5 years. The only reason I got rid of it is because the timing went, and I had dumped
Or-
quite a bit of money
The,
into that car.
the
Yeah,
Ford Taurus wagon was pretty decent too.
Uh-huh.
I know a rural carrier who bought a '93 Jeep Grand Cherokee right-hand drive and is still driving it to this day, and they retired from the post office.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what the brand new RCA got was one of the I don't know what year it is, but it's one of the Cherokees. And it's in really great condition. I don't know where he got it, but and he's not even going on the POV route. But that may
You know what
change.
gets
We'll
me is
see.
that you're talking about repairs on these vehicles, okay? How about just the regular maintenance on them? Getting the time
Mm-hmm.
off for that. I mean, that's what keeps you from getting into these repair situations is maintenance. Oh, I need you to work your drop day. I'm getting my vehicle worked on. Well, not this week. Well, next week if I put a transmission in, guess what? I'm coming after you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, guys. Do we have anything else? No.
Uh, it's mad as
Uh,
hell. You see comments about ADRs not pursuing things. Our national board not pursuing things. The post office just dumbasses. It's very frustrating.
mhm.
Really is. And I can understand, like I said, in my SDNC, that the highway contractor going off on the district manager. They're there to do a job,
Mhm.
and the two of them are handling 3 highway routes for the last 4 months, and you're going to get on this guy's shit for bringing over 3 ampers at once instead of 2. God help you, you be efficient, right?
Mhm.
The egos, the arrogance of these people is just astounding. Oh, earthquake. Oh, I'm sorry, I farted.
Oh boy. All right, James, your final thoughts for this evening.
Well, this has been a very exciting episode this week. Um, Going from really depressing to angry to fun to angry. But the biggest thing that I want to take everybody to take away is out of all of this, the three of us here on this podcast stand with every one of you. We're here for you. As you heard, every single one of us has talked to carriers this week and weeks past and stuff like that. And we're
Yeah,
coming up on the worst weeks just before Christmas for package deliveries and things like that. People are wanting their last minute items delivered to their house quickly. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling stressed out and you need somebody to talk to, reach out to us. We're here for you. and don't think that it's a burden or a bother. If we're not available, we're not going to respond, but we'll respond when we're actually available. So reach out, because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. Bill?
And he's right. Even though I'm retired, I'm fielding more calls and messaging than I ever imagined. And you know what? I'm happy to do so. Um, I'm more than willing to help pitch in for the fight that's ahead of you, that's ongoing. And if I can be of service, message me, call me if you have my number. If you don't have my number, don't call me. But the fact of the matter is that we are here for you, and we do this every week for you. I'm, sure that James and Kristen, would find other things to do. But the fact of the matter is, we prefer to give our time to you. No pay, no accolades, no praise, just so we can be of service, because you know what it's like to be out there. We sympathize and we empathize and we understand. So anytime you want to reach out, we're here. We don't get back to you right away, we'll get back to you. Because unlike your national board, we care. Everybody be safe. This is going to be a rough week coming up. Just do the best you can. Do it safely, professionally. Get your ass home, because you're the most important delivery at the end of the day. Kristen?
Thank you guys. Yeah, definitely. Today's episode has been kind of all over the place. But yeah, no, definitely, stand up for yourself, help urge those that you work with to stand up for themselves. Be that one that leads the way and it inspires everyone else to step up as well. But yeah, that's, this week, I know this past week was super light for me. The week before, we got hammered. The week before Christmas OT starts, I was working 10, 11, 12-hour days all week. And then last week, I was at evaluation or under with no help. I have a feeling I'm going to be walking into hell tomorrow. So everybody, stay safe out there. It gets to be 8 p.m. Safety is your call. Plain and simple. Safety is your call out on the route. It doesn't matter if it's blizzard conditions, darkness, ice, you know, tornadoes, God forbid. Safety is your call once you get out on that street. So make that call to stay safe. And we shall be back next week, guys. Everybody have a good one.
Macho man. Ah, I want to be your macho man.
Yeah. Technical difficulties. It's not United We Scan without technical difficulties.